Hello everyone, this is Phantom Raider here, and today I actually have a bit of a different video in mind. So, lately, I had just recently watched the movie Coraline, and I have been practically obsessed with the movie. And I remember looking up some Coraline, and I ended up looking up some Coraline theories on YouTube, and it inspired me to do my own little twist on a theory and everything about the other mother, otherwise known as Beldam. Now, if you haven't seen the movie, I recommend that you do because this is probably going to contain some major spoilers for the movie. So, just so you know. But keep in mind, it is a pretty scary movie. So, if you are very young, ask your parents before you watch that movie because, again, it can be pretty scary. But anyway, the other mother is also known as Beldam in the movie. That's what she's officially called. And from what I recall, and from what I have heard so many times in all of the movies and all of the theories, is the simple fact that the reason that Beldam desperately tries to get Coraline to stay, at least in my opinion, is because she is lonely. Because it's safe to assume that that the other mother, Beldam, has been in this pocket dimension for years, like so many years, like at least around the 1960s, because in the movie, the landlord's sister, which both of them were 10 years old at the time, or at least around 10 years old, and the landlord's sister disappeared in the 1960s. So it's safe to assume that that child was taken by Beldam. And it's also safe to assume that if the other mother had managed to take away the children in the 1960s and still be around in 2009, which was when the movie was released, it's safe to assume that, that obviously the character is extremely old. So do me a favor and imagine something. Imagine if you were locked in this pocket dimension for decades and decades, completely alone, having nothing but your own self as your company. Wouldn't you feel the need to get attention and someone to love you desperately? Because, personally for me, if I was locked in a pocket dimension by myself for decades, maybe even generations and everything, then then I would go insane for company as well. And I remember one of the lines that Coraline's other mother had said as Coraline was escaping was, "Don't go, I'll die without you." And I could probably make another video on this discussing on her life energy, on how, and everything, because I've heard many theories that Coraline's other mother feeds off of love and everything. I can go into a lot of in-depth theories on that, but I'm going to stick with emotional attachment for this video. I can say with a wholehearted certainty, in my opinion, that probably means that the other mother can't stand being alone again because she got company. She hasn't had company since the 1960s and everything. And Coraline leaving and rejecting her offer of love, Coraline's other mother obviously was crazy and desperate for attention and desperate for love because of the fact that she's been alone for so long that all she wants in reality is just something to love. And that's probably what the purpose of the dolls are. I have a theory that perhaps that the dolls at first were just substitutes for company. That maybe she just made dolls in her past as a hobby, maybe because she just wanted company. And the dolls made her feel like she had company, but eventually that got boring. So she started making dolls and enchanting them with magic, perhaps, to go into the real world and tricking children into coming into this other world and making them her victims. And I could go on about many different theories I've heard about what the other mother does to the children after she kills them. Not after she kills them, after she gains their love, because it's obvious that in the movie there are 3 children, the 3 ghost children. They say that they wanted so much more out of the other mother because of the fact that she gave them so much more than they could ever want, so they let her sew the buttons into her eyes. And when you think about that, it can be kind of scary to think that perhaps that perhaps those children were kept away because after they got the button sewn in their eyes, perhaps maybe the other mother got bored of their company, or perhaps they had started to resent the other mother. So she just locked them away. Because think about it. She had locked Coraline into the same exact place that those children were in because of the fact that Coraline had refused to be loving, quote unquote, to Coraline's other mother. And Beldam said, "You can come out when you learn to be a loving daughter." And on the surface, that doesn't appear to have much context, but when you think about it, perhaps it means that maybe that's the reason why those spirits have been there for so long, because of the fact that they had grown resentful of the other mother, and they had grown resentful of Beldam, and eventually stopped following her orders, because I mean, think about it. Over time, as you grow older as a child, you no longer depend on your parents as much. You don't depend on your parents as much as you were when you were 5 if you're like 22. If you're like 22, you obviously don't go to them. You don't go to them whenever you step on a nail or whenever you accidentally stub your toe. You don't go to them. You instead just get up and deal with it as you grow older. But when you're a little kid, you depend on your family, on your loved ones, or your guardians, or whatever, far more. So my theory is that perhaps that these children had grown accustomed to, another theory is that perhaps these children had grown so accustomed to the new world, they always wanted more, and they demanded more out of the other mother. But Beldam could probably only do so much. So they grew resentful of her, so she locked them away until they learned to be loving children. And they never did. And it's a scary notion and everything. And I can go into many different theories that I have heard that are very terrifying, such as Coraline never truly leaving the other dimension and everything once she enters. But that is probably a topic for another day. But I can definitely say wholeheartedly that I feel that it's safe to assume that the reason and the motive behind the other mother's decisions and actions wasn't just because she was hungry for food, because it's safe to say that she probably doesn't feed off of normal food. While true, it's granted that we see her eating from time to time. Think of it like the Namekians from Dragon Ball Z. Eating is a luxury for them. They don't need to eat to survive. They don't rely on food to survive. It's just a luxury to them. So maybe that is what it is. And it would actually make sense if you think about it, right? So I feel that perhaps maybe the other mother really doesn't feed off of food, but instead off of love and everything. Because think about it. Here's another thing. In My Little Pony, and I know this is going to sound off topic, but stick with me here. In My Little Pony, love is used as an energy. Love is used as an energy for the crystal heart, for the elements of harmony, and for all of Equestria. That is what the elements of harmony, the crystal heart, and all of those magical gems and all of those spells do. They are powered by love. And whether you are an emotional person or not, and everything, whether you believe in true love or not, love is considered very powerful. Even if it doesn't have magical properties in the real world, it is still considered powerful. Because love can make you do crazy things. Love can make you sometimes go to the worst things in the world just so you can see the person you care for most happy. That is what I mean. Love is a very powerful thing, regardless of whether or not it has magical properties. Because even if we're in the real world where love doesn't have magical properties, where it's powerful to use gems that protect us from things, what I mean is, maybe that is what the other mother, aka Beldam, feeds off of. She feeds off love because it's so powerful, and that's what gives her power. And that's why she said, "I'll die without you, Coraline," because if Coraline left, and everything, then she would no longer have food. She would have to go, and of course, it would be so long probably since she could find a new victim. So it would probably be very difficult for her to find a new victim for a long time, which would mean that her power would slowly start to deteriorate, and she would eventually die and everything, which would make sense, actually. And that's the reason why she did it. But again, I believe that the other mother didn't do her actions just because of food. Because I know that obviously the other mother, because I don't know the specifics of her life, but I personally, if I was stuck in a dimension like that for so many years alone, I really wouldn't care about food. I would just care about company. Because the other mother is trapped in this single room for like 6 decades, maybe even more, maybe centuries, generations, who knows how long, and everything. And that's terrifying to think of, but it's a very real possibility. And it's to think that maybe the other mother just desperately wants company and affection. Sort of similar to the Five Nights at Freddy's children. They are desperate for things to play with. They're so desperate for company because they're locked in those suits for so many years, since like the 1980s and everything, since the late 1980s. And that means that they have been in those suits for like 2 decades. And clearly that's a drop in the bucket compared to how long the other mother has been alive for, but irregardless, you probably see my point. And I feel that perhaps the other mother has many different motives. And I honestly wouldn't mind doing a theory video on what the other mother is, because I find that to be a very fun little theory. Because it is clear that I have seen many different videos discussing what they believe the other mother to truly be, but it's not exactly fully clear. Because the other mother has characteristics that not one creature has. Because according to research by other YouTubers, they have concluded that there are several creatures that have traits that she does. Some have some of the other some have some qualities, some have other qualities that the other mother has. But irregardless, I guess I'm going to end this video here. Don't worry, I do plan on doing a fanfic reading before Sunday tomorrow, and everything, but first I have to get this video uploaded and everything, and then I can get to work on the next video. But, and also, just a little heads up on what the fanfiction is going to be. It is going to be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle video. So, I don't believe I've done one of these before, so I'm very, very excited about what I'm going to be doing here. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching, and this is Phantom Rider, and I'll be seeing you all very soon. Bye-bye.